All right, listener's name, you ready to dive into some serious quesadilla action?
Oh, you know I'm always ready for a cheesy deep dive.
This time, you've really outdone yourself with this stack of recipes and tips. Looks like we're on a quest for quesadilla mastery.
And the best part is quesadillas are like blank canvases.
Totally, but you've got to start with a good foundation, and I see from your research that no matter how wild things get, it always comes back to the basics. Tortillas, cheese.
Don't forget the sizzle. A little fat in the pan is what takes it to the next level.
You're speaking my language. But it's interesting, right? Because all these sources agree on those core ingredients, but that's where the real fun begins.
That's the beauty of it. You can take those simple elements and go in so many directions.
Exactly. And speaking of directions, I've got to ask, I saw you've got both flour and corn tortillas in the mix. Have you decided which way you're leaning for this deep dive?
Honestly, I go back and forth. Sometimes I'm all about that soft, pillowy flour tortilla, but other times I crave that hearty, corny flavor. What about you? Any preferences?
Oh, absolutely. For me, I think it totally depends on the fillings. Speaking of which, the veggie quesadilla game is strong with this research. There's one recipe here that's caught my eye, sautéed onions and bell peppers. The way they describe caramelizing them. It's like flavor magic.
Oh yeah, caramelization is key. Bringing out that natural sweetness in the veggies, creating a flavor base that can play off of so many other ingredients.
And speaking of playing off of flavors, one recipe actually suggests taking advantage of that hot pan after you've sautéed those onions and peppers. Toss in any other veggies you want to cook, talk about efficiency.
Right, love that. Got to maximize that flavor potential. And speaking of maximizing flavor, you can't forget about protein. Your chicken quesadilla recipe is calling my name.
And the best part is, it calls for using whatever pre-cooked chicken you've got on hand. Talk about a weeknight hero.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Streamlining for the win. But what really elevates that recipe?
What's that?
They don't skimp on the taco seasoning. It's all about those bold flavors. But speaking of bold, there's a technique in your research that impacts both flavor and texture, and it's all about,
Wait, are you talking about the cheese? Please tell me it's all about the cheese.
you know it. But it's not just about how MUCH cheese, it's about where it goes. We're talking strategic cheese placement for maximum impact.
Okay, you've officially piqued my curiosity. Lay it on me.
So picture this, a layer of cheese directly on the bottom tortilla, then your fillings. And to top it all off, you gets it, even more cheese.
A cheese force field. I knew it. It's like you're reading my cheesy dreams. But seriously, why is this such a game changer?
Well, think about it. When that cheese melts on top, it's not just about the extra gooey goodness. It actually acts as a glue, holding everything together, all more fillings escaping.
Genius. I can't believe I've been living my quesadilla life without this secret weapon. All right, so we've got our cheese game locked and loaded. What's next in this cheesy adventure?
Let's talk about cooking techniques, because believe it or not, how you cook that quesadilla can make all the difference. We're talking crispy versus soft. What's your pleasure?
Oh, that's a tough one. Some days I'm all about that crispy golden brown exterior, but then other times I crave that soft, pillowy bite. What about you? Any preferences?
It really depends on my mood. But if you're going for crispy, one of your sources had a great tip: brushing the outside of the tortilla with butter or oil before cooking. It's like a one-way ticket to Crunch Town.
Oh man, my mouth is already watering. That sounds incredible. But no matter how perfectly cooked it is, a quesadilla needs its trusty sidekicks. We've got to talk dipping sauces.
Always a good idea. I mean, you can't go wrong with the classics: sour cream, guacamole, salsa.
Right. But one of the recipes threw in a wild card that totally surprised me. A squeeze of fresh lime juice.
That, my friend, is a stroke of genius. That little bit of lime juice adds such a refreshing burst of flavor, cutting through the richness of the cheese and brightening up the other ingredients. It's all about balance.
You know, it's funny, I used to think quesadillas were just a quick and easy meal, but diving into all this research with you, it's clear that there's an art to crafting the perfect quesadilla.
Absolutely. It's like taking something familiar and discovering a whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about food. There's always something new to learn and explore.
So true. And speaking of exploring, I'm looking at all these recipes, and we've talked chicken and veggies, but have we even scratched the surface of what can go inside a quesadilla? I mean, what other delicious detours should we be taking on this cheesy journey?
Buckle up, because your sources are packed with inspiration. For a heartier option, there's seasoned ground beef, always a crowd pleaser. Or for something a little more decadent, how about succulent shrimp?
Okay, now you're speaking my language. And I can't believe I almost forgot what about our vegetarian and vegan friends.
Don't worry, I've got you covered. One of your sources suggests a delicious tofu scramble that's packed with flavor and perfect for a satisfying vegetarian quesadilla.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Tofu scramble in a quesadilla. I'm here for it. That reminds me, there was this one recipe that called for a very specific type of cheese. It wasn't just any cheddar or Monterey Jack.
Ah, you must be talking about the recipe that uses queso fresco. It's a Mexican cheese with this amazing crumbly texture that adds a really unique element to a quesadilla. But don't let that limit you. Your sources emphasize exploring different cheeses. Pepper jack for a little heat, smoked Gouda for a more intense savory flavor. The possibilities are endless.
This is why I love a good deep dive. We've gone from basic quesadillas to a world of cheesy inspiration, but before we get completely lost in all these delicious possibilities, we need to circle back to those cooking tips. Was there anything else besides that butter brushing technique that really stood out to you?
Oh, there's more where that came from. One of your sources was really big on even heat distribution when it comes to getting that perfect golden brown crust.
Makes sense. You don't want any hot spots turning your tortilla into a burnt mess.
Right. They actually recommend using a heavy bottom pan and resisting the urge to crank up the heat too high.
Patience is a virtue, especially when cheese is involved.
Words to live by. But speaking of virtues, how adventurous are you feeling with your quesadilla game?
Bring on the wild ideas. I'm always down to try something new.
All right, get ready for this because one of your sources suggests adding a touch of sweetness to your savory quesadillas.
Wait, really? I've never thought of that.
It sounds crazy, but trust me, a sprinkle of brown sugar or drizzle of honey, just a hint, can add this whole other dimension of flavor.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. Sweet and savory quesadillas. You've created a monster. But, all this talk about flavor combinations has me thinking we've covered a lot of ground here, from ingredients to techniques. But at the end of the day, the real test is in the tasting, right?
That's what it's all about, taking all this inspiration and making it your own. I'm ready to fire up the stove already.
Me too. And listener's name, we hope you are too. We've explored a world of quesadilla possibilities today, but the real fun begins in your kitchen. So grab your favorite tortillas, experiment with bold fillings and cheesy combinations, and most importantly, have fun with it. Who knows? Maybe you'll stumble upon the next great quesadilla innovation. Until next time, happy cooking.